A millionaire's deaf daughter spent her 23rd birthday completely alone in a crowded café, signing happy birthday to herself while a slice of untouched cake sat before her. Surrounded by Nashville's elite who couldn't speak her language, Naomi Ellison's hands moved through the air in a conversation with no one until a single father named Marcus Bennett recognized the signs and did something that would shatter 19 years of silence between a daughter and her millionaire father. The afternoon heat in downtown Nashville was suffocating, but inside the Boulevard Café, the air conditioning created a different kind of chill. Marcus Bennett wasn't supposed to be there. He'd promised his 8-year-old son Caleb they'd be at the park by now, but a client had insisted on meeting at this overpriced coffee shop where a simple latte cost more than most people's lunch. That's when he saw her. She sat at the corner table, the one by the window where natural light created a halo effect around her natural hair, styled in elegant twists. Designer dress, pearl earrings, everything about her screamed money. But her hands were having a conversation in the air. Happy birthday to me. The signs were unmistakable. Marcus's chest tightened as he watched her brown fingers move with practiced precision. Each gesture a word spoken into silence, the resignation in her movements, the way her shoulders slightly slumped with each sign. This wasn't celebration. This was surrender. A waiter approached her table, said something while gesturing at the untouched birthday cake. She pointed to her ears, shook her head, then wrote something on a napkin. The waiter awkwardly nodded and retreated. The pattern was so familiar, it made Marcus's stomach turn. The cake had a single candle. She traced her finger along the edge of the plate, and Marcus could see her lips moving. Reading the cursive chocolate lettering, "Happy 23rd birthday, Naomi." A black man in an expensive suit stopped by her table. Marcus watched as he waved enthusiastically, his mouth moving in exaggerated shapes, like people do when they think speaking louder or more dramatically will somehow break through deafness. Naomi smiled, that polite, practiced smile that doesn't reach the eyes, and nodded. The man patted her shoulder and walked away, probably feeling good about his 30-second interaction. Marcus's hands instinctively moved to sign Oliver before he caught himself. His younger brother had been dead for 5 years, but muscle memory didn't care about loss. Some habits were carved too deep to fade. Another person stopped by Naomi's table, a black woman this time, dripping in jewelry. More exaggerated mouth movements, another awkward pat, another retreat. Naomi was like an exhibit in a museum. Beautiful deaf girl, circa 2024. Please admire, but do not attempt meaningful interaction. Marcus found himself standing before his brain could form an objection. His client would be here in 10 minutes, but something about the way she signed alone to herself, over and over like a mantra, pulled him forward. "Excuse me." He signed as he approached. Naomi's hands froze mid-gesture. Her eyes went wide, scanning his face like she was trying to solve a puzzle. For a moment, neither moved. "I don't mean to intrude," he continued signing, "but happy birthday." The transformation was instant. Her composed facade cracked, and something raw and desperate flickered across her features. Her hands trembled as they formed the response. "You sign?" "My brother was deaf," Marcus signed, then immediately regretted using past tense, but Naomi was already pulling out the chair across from her, her movements urgent, almost frantic. "Please," she signed. "Sit, please." Marcus glanced at his phone. His client would be here soon. But the look in Naomi's eyes, like someone drowning who'd just been thrown a rope, made the decision for him. "I'm Marcus," he signed, settling into the chair. "Naomi." Her hands moved eagerly now, like a dam had burst. I haven't had someone sign with me in..." She paused, calculating. 3 months, maybe 4. "But your family?" "My father?" Naomi's laugh was bitter, a sound she probably couldn't fully hear herself. Victor Ellison doesn't do sign language. He does business deals and charity galas and expensive gifts. She gestured at her designer dress. This cost $3,000. Know what I would have traded it for? One happy birthday in sign language from him. Marcus's phone buzzed, his client. He silenced it without looking. How long have you been deaf? Since I was 4. Meningitis. Her signs were matter of fact, practiced. This was clearly a story she'd told many times. My father's solution was to throw money at it. Best doctors, best hearing aids, best schools, everything but learning to actually talk to me. That must be lonely. You have no idea. Or maybe... She studied his face. Maybe you do. You said your brother was deaf. Was. The question hung between them. Marcus's hands hesitated, then formed the words he'd rarely signed to anyone. He died 5 years ago. Drowning accident. Not because he was deaf. He had a heart condition we didn't know about. Naomi's expression softened. I'm sorry. How long had you been signing? 20 years, since Oliver was born. Marcus smiled at the memory. He was 16 years younger than me. Our parents were overwhelmed, so I became his translator, his protector, his bridge to the hearing world. Sign language was our secret language even after he learned to read lips. And now? Now I sign to empty rooms sometimes, practice conversations with someone who never answers. I sign to myself constantly. Full conversations. Arguments with my father where I actually get to express how I feel. Jokes no one will laugh at. Dreams no one will hear about. She paused. This is the most I've actually communicated with someone in months. Marcus's client walked in. Hayden Smith, all business suit and impatience. He spotted Marcus and started over, his face already showing irritation. I have to... Marcus started to sign, but Naomi had seen Hayden too. Your meeting, she signed, her hands already retreating. I understand. But Marcus was already standing, intercepting Hayden halfway. Family emergency, he said aloud, not caring if it was technically a lie. We'll have to reschedule. Hayden's face went through several shades of red. But Marcus was already walking back to Naomi, whose eyes were wide with disbelief. Your client... Will survive, Marcus signed, sitting back down. Tell me about your birthday. Why are you alone? Naomi's hands moved slowly at first, like she was testing whether this was real. My father's in Tokyo. Business deal. He sent this cake, had his secretary arrange for it to be delivered here. This café, it's where he brings his business associates. I think he thought being here would feel like being with him. She paused. But it doesn't. It feels like being a prop in someone else's life. The bitterness was back. You know what's funny? He runs a real estate empire. His entire fortune is built on communication, convincing people, negotiating, connecting. But 19 years, and he's never learned my language. Maybe he's afraid. Of what? Naomi's signs were sharp, of not being good enough, of failing you more than he thinks he already has. Naomi stared at him for a long moment. You don't know Victor Ellison. Failure isn't in his vocabulary. Neither is vulnerability, I'm guessing. That made her pause. Her hands lowered, and Marcus saw her really considering the idea for the first time. Tell me about your son, she signed, changing the subject. You mentioned promising him something. Caleb. He's 8. We were supposed to go to the park, but... Marcus gestured around the café. You chose to sit with a stranger instead. You looked like you needed a conversation more than he needed the swings. What about his mother? Marcus's hands hesitated. She left when Caleb was 2. Couldn't handle parenthood, she said. Sends birthday cards sometimes when she remembers. So you understand. Being abandoned by someone who's supposed to love you unconditionally. It's different, though. Your father is still here. Is he? Naomi's question hung in the air. Physical presence isn't the same as being present. At least your ex was honest enough to leave. The honesty was brutal, But Marcus couldn't argue with it. He'd spent years angry at Catherine for leaving, but at least Caleb didn't have to watch her fail to connect every single day. Would you like to meet him? Marcus found himself signing. Caleb, I mean. I could teach him to sign happy birthday. The hope that bloomed on Naomi's face was almost painful to witness. You'd do that? He's been asking about learning sign language anyway. He saw me signing to myself once and was fascinated. You could bring him here tomorrow? Naomi suggested, then immediately backtracked. Sorry, that's presumptuous. You probably have… Tomorrow's perfect, Marcus interrupted. Same time. Naomi nodded, and for the first time since he'd approached, she smiled. A real smile that transformed her entire face. As Marcus stood to leave, finally acknowledging the angry texts from Hayden, Naomi signed one more thing. Thank you for seeing me. Not the deaf girl. Not the millionaire's daughter. Just me. Naomi, Marcus signed back. That's all I saw from the beginning. Walking to his car, Marcus thought about Oliver, about the years of signing that felt like they had died with his brother. Maybe they hadn't been wasted after all. Maybe they'd been preparing him for this moment, this woman, this connection across silence. Naomi watched him go through the cafe window, her hands unconsciously signing his name. Marcus. The first person in years who'd chosen her company over something else, who'd seen her isolation and stepped into it rather than politely stepping around it. Her phone buzzed with a text from her father. Happy birthday, sweetheart. The cake should have arrived. Sorry I couldn't be there. The Tokyo deal is important for our future. She typed back, met someone today who speaks my language. His response was predictably tone-deaf. Excellent. Networking is important. What company does he work for? She didn't reply. How could she explain that Marcus's value had nothing to do with networking and everything to do with the simple act of seeing her? The next day, Marcus arrived with Caleb in tow. The 8-year-old was practically vibrating with excitement, his hands already attempting the signs Marcus had taught him in the car. Is that her? Caleb asked aloud, pointing at Naomi through the window. Yes, but remember what we talked about. But Caleb was already pushing through the door, marching up to Naomi with the confidence only children possess. His small brown hands moved carefully through the signs. Hello, I'm Caleb. Happy birthday yesterday. Naomi's eyes filled with tears. She looked at Marcus, who shrugged apologetically. He practiced all night. He signed. It's perfect. She signed back, then turned to Caleb with slower, clearer signs. Hello, Caleb. Thank you. Want to learn more? For the next 2 hours, Naomi taught Caleb signs while Marcus translated the context. The boy was a quick learner, his enthusiasm infectious. Other cafe patrons stared, some smiling at the scene, but Naomi didn't notice. Her world had shrunk to this table, these people who made effort to enter her silence rather than expecting her to strain toward their sound. Why don't more people know this? Caleb asked his father. It's like a secret code. Not everyone needs it, Marcus explained. But Naomi needs it, Caleb said simply. So we should know it. The child's logic was beautiful in its simplicity. Naomi signed, thank you, to him, and Caleb beamed like he'd won a prize. These meetings became routine, 3 times a week, then daily. Marcus would bring his laptop, working on design projects while Naomi and Caleb practiced signs. She taught the boy colors, animals, feelings. Watching his joy at each new word healed something in her she didn't know was broken. But it wasn't just Caleb learning. Naomi taught Marcus signs Oliver had been too young to use. Complex emotions, abstract concepts, philosophical ideas. Their conversations deepened, moving beyond pleasantries to real connection. Why design? Naomi asked one afternoon while Caleb was in the bathroom. Control, Marcus signed. After Catherine left, everything felt chaotic. Design lets me create order, beauty, meaning from nothing. And raising Caleb alone? Terrifying, Marcus admitted. Every day I worry I'm not enough, that he needs a mother, a complete family. He has a complete family, Naomi signed firmly. You're not half a parent just because you're alone. You sound sure. My mother died when I was 6. Car accident. My father raised me alone. And I never felt like I was missing half a family. I felt like I was missing connection. But that's different. Marcus wanted to ask more about her mother, but Caleb returned, proudly signing bathroom with a grin. 3 weeks into their routine, Victor Ellison returned from Tokyo. Naomi had told her father about Marcus and Caleb, though she'd kept the details vague. So when Victor arrived at the boulevard one afternoon to surprise his daughter, he wasn't prepared for what he saw. His daughter, his quiet, isolated daughter, was laughing. Her hands flew through the air in animated conversation with a black man and a young black boy. The joy on her face was something Victor hadn't seen in years. He stood frozen in the doorway, watching. The man, early 30s, casual clothes that suggested creative profession rather than corporate, was signing something that made Naomi throw her head back in laughter. The boy was trying to copy a sign Naomi was teaching, his face scrunched in concentration. Mr. Ellison, the cafe manager appeared at his elbow. Would you like your usual table? No, Victor said slowly. No, I'll join my daughter. He walked over, each step heavy with the weight of realization. Naomi saw him coming, and her entire demeanor changed. The animation drained from her face. Her hands fell to her lap, and she became the composed, distant daughter he knew. Dad, she said aloud, her voice carrying that slightly off tone that came from not hearing herself properly. Naomi. He nodded at Marcus and Caleb. I didn't know you had company. Marcus stood, extending his hand. Marcus Bennett. This is my son, Caleb. Victor shook hands, his businessman's assessment taking in Marcus's appearance, trying to categorize him. Not money. The clothes made that clear. Not business. No card offered. So what? Daddy can't sign, Naomi said to Marcus, her voice flat. So we'll need to switch to verbal. I can translate, Marcus offered. But Naomi shook her head. He doesn't like accommodations. Makes him feel, what was it you said, Dad? Handicapped by proxy. Victor flinched. Naomi, that's not, it's exactly what you said. She turned to Marcus. We should go. No, Victor said quickly. Please stay, I'd like to understand. Marcus and Naomi exchanged glances. She signed something quickly that Victor couldn't understand, but Marcus's response made her shoulders relax slightly. Caleb, Marcus said aloud, why don't you show Mr. Ellison what Naomi taught you today? The boy lit up, turning to Victor with eager hands. Watch. He signed carefully. Nice to meet you. I'm learning to talk to Naomi. He says it's nice to meet you. He's learning to talk to Naomi. Victor stared at the boy. This child who'd known his daughter 3 weeks and could communicate with her better than he could after 23 years. How long have you been learning? He asked Caleb. The boy held up 3 fingers, then signed something else. Marcus translated, 3 weeks. It's fun. Like being a secret agent. 3 weeks, Victor repeated, the words heavy with self-recrimination. Dad, Naomi started, but Victor held up his hand. Show me, he said to Marcus. Show me how to say hello to my daughter. Marcus looked at Naomi, who seemed frozen. Slowly he demonstrated the sign for hello, then daughter. Victor's hands that signed million-dollar deals, that gestured commandingly in boardrooms, trembled as they copied the movements. Hello, daughter. Naomi's eyes filled with tears. She signed back slowly. Hello, Dad. What did she say? Victor asked urgently. Hello, Dad, Marcus translated. For a moment, no one moved. Then Victor pulled out a chair and sat down heavily. 19 years, he said. 19 years since the meningitis. And I hired tutors for her, interpreters, but you never learned yourself, Marcus said gently. I told myself I was too old, too busy. Truth is, Victor looked at his daughter. I was terrified of being bad at it, of failing her more than I already had. It was easier to pretend money could solve everything. Fear of failure, Naomi said out loud, looking at Marcus with recognition. He'd called it 3 weeks ago. Teach me, Victor said suddenly. Both of you, teach me. I know I don't deserve. Naomi's hand shot out, grabbing his. With her other hand, she signed something. Marcus translated, "It's never too late to learn." The lesson started that day. Victor Ellison, who commanded boardrooms and controlled millions, became a student at his daughter's table. His hands, unused to this kind of vulnerability, struggled with basic signs. "No, Dad, like this," Naomi would correct, adjusting his fingers. Each correction was patient, gentle, a reversal of every dynamic they'd ever had. Marcus watched it all unfold, translating when needed but increasingly unnecessary as Victor slowly built his vocabulary. Caleb helped too, showing the older man tricks he'd learned, making it feel less like failure when Victor struggled with a sign the 8-year-old had mastered. "You know what's ironic?" Victor said one evening, 6 weeks into his lessons. "I built my fortune on communication, on reading people, on knowing exactly what to say. But with your own daughter, you were speaking different languages," Marcus offered. "No," Victor corrected. "I refused to learn hers. I expected the world to accommodate her disability instead of recognizing that I was the one who was disabled. Disabled by my own pride and fear." As weeks turned to months, the change in both Ellisons was profound. Naomi began to shine, her confidence growing with each conversation she could have with her father. Victor became humble in a way his business associates would never recognize, learning not just sign language, but how to truly see his daughter. The breakthrough came on a rainy Thursday. Victor had been practicing a phrase for days, working with Marcus while Naomi was at her volunteer position at the museum. When she arrived at the café, Victor stood and signed carefully but clearly. "Sunshine, you are my sunshine. You always have been. I'm sorry it took me so long to tell you." Naomi froze. Her hands flew to her mouth, and tears streamed down her face. "You used my sign name," she signed to Marcus, "the one Mom gave me before she died." Marcus translated, and Victor nodded. "I remembered. Your mother used to sign it when you were little, before we lost her. I should have continued. I should have done so many things differently." Caleb, who'd been quietly drawing, looked up at his father. "Is this happy crying or sad crying?" "Both," Marcus signed and said aloud. "Sometimes they're the same thing." The transformation wasn't just personal, it rippled outward. Victor hired sign language tutors for his entire household staff. He started incorporating accessibility features into all his properties. He became, in his words, militantly inclusive about communication access in Nashville's business community. "I spent 2 decades building walls," he told Marcus one day. "Walls of money, walls of ignorance, walls of fear. You and Caleb, you showed me how to build bridges instead." But perhaps the most beautiful change was in the relationships themselves. Marcus and Naomi's connection deepened from friendship to something more. She taught him signs for feelings Oliver had been too young to express: profound grief, unexpected joy, the specific loneliness of being a single parent. He taught her that isolation wasn't her destiny, that she deserved to be chosen, to be someone's priority rather than their charity case. "You know what I love about you?" Naomi signed to him one evening, as they watched Caleb teach Victor the sign for skateboard. "My devastating good looks?" Marcus signed back with a grin. "You never tried to fix me. Everyone else saw my deafness as a problem to solve. You just saw it as part of who I am, because it is. Just like being a single dad is part of who I am, not broken, just us. Their first kiss happened in sign language first. Marcus signing, "May I?" and Naomi responding, "Please," before their lips ever touched. Caleb, predictably, was thrilled. "Does this mean Naomi will be my mom?" he asked with 8-year-old directness. "Let's take things slow," Marcus said aloud while signing. But Caleb was already signing to Naomi. "Want to be my mom?" Naomi laughed, tears in her eyes, and signed back, "Want to be my son?" "Deal," Caleb signed, having learned that word the week before. 1 year after that first lonely birthday, Naomi celebrated her 24th surrounded by people who could speak her language. The private dining room at the boulevard was full, not with her father's business associates making awkward small talk, but with people who'd learned to sign for her. Victor stood to give a toast. His signing was still imperfect, but his message was clear. "Last year I gave you a condo for your birthday. This year I give you my voice in your language. I give you my promise to never stop learning, never stop trying to meet you where you are, instead of demanding you come to me." He continued, his hands more confident now. "You are not the one who needed to be fixed. I was. You were not the one who was disabled. I was disabled by my inability to see that love means learning someone else's language, literal and figurative." The room was silent except for the soft sound of tears being wiped away. "Also," Victor added with a slight smile, "I'm hoping Marcus will officially become family soon because I need more help with my homework." Everyone laughed, the tension breaking. Marcus stood, pulling something from his pocket. The small velvet box made Naomi's hands fly to her chest. "Naomi," he signed, ignoring everyone else in the room. "You taught me that silence isn't empty. It's full of possibility. You showed me that connection isn't about words, but about choosing to understand each other. You brought light back into spaces I thought would stay dark forever." He opened the box, revealing a simple silver ring with a small sapphire, Naomi's birthstone. "Will you marry me?" He signed, then added with a grin, "Caleb already called dibs on you as his mom, so really you'd be breaking a child's heart if you say no." Naomi was laugh-crying as she signed yes over and over, pulling him into a kiss while the room erupted in celebration. Some cheering aloud, others waving their hands in the air in deaf applause. 2 years later, the Bridge Center stood as testament to what connection could build. The nonprofit founded by Naomi and Marcus, with Victor's backing, provided free sign language classes to families, schools, and businesses. The walls were glass, transparent, barrier-free, revolutionary in their simplicity. We had our grand opening today. Naomi signed to Marcus as they stood in the empty center after everyone had gone home. 300 people came. "Oliver would have loved this," Marcus signed back. "He did love it," Naomi corrected. "His love for you started all of this. Every sign you teach, every connection made here, it's his legacy too." Caleb, now 11 and fully bilingual in English and ASL, ran in from the parking lot where Victor was waiting. "Grandpa says hurry up or we'll miss our reservation." "Grandpa needs to learn patience," Naomi signed with a smile. "I can see you signing about me," Victor called from the doorway, his signs getting more fluid every day. "And I'm patient. I waited 19 years to learn to talk to my daughter properly." 20 years, Naomi corrected. "But who's counting?" "I am," Victor signed seriously. "I count every lost year as motivation to never waste another day." The family walked out together. A millionaire grandfather still learning to sign "I love you" without trembling. A young boy who switched between languages without thinking. A woman who'd found her voice in silence. And a man who discovered that the skills we carry for lost loved ones sometimes lead us exactly where we need to be. You know what the best gift is? Naomi signed to Marcus as they drove to the restaurant. "What?" He signed back at a red light. "Second chances?" She signed. My father got a second chance to be my dad. You got a second chance to use your signs. I got a second chance at believing I was worth learning for. And Caleb? Marcus asked. I got a mom who teaches me that different doesn't mean less, their son signed from the back seat. Victor, watching from the passenger seat, added, and I learned that it's never too late to learn a new language, especially when it's the language of someone you love. The light turned green, and they drove on. A family formed not by perfection, but by the choice to keep building bridges, one sign at a time.